Today, I am thrilled to be joined by Mariela Sullivan. Hello, Mariela. It's so good to see you. Mariela and Vix sit at the intersection of culture, of content, and growth. She leads growth marketing at TelevisaUnivision. Mariela leads the charge in scaling one of the fastest growing streaming platforms in the world, Vix. Her work is rooted in deep understanding of audience behavior and a relentless focus on performance. She is helping to redefine what growth marketing looks like in a platform native world. She's also someone who knows how to move fast, stay relevant, and lead with both heart and data. And we're here to talk about how brands can scale, how they can scale storytelling, and how they can think about doing that across the screens. So Mariela, it is terrific to have you here. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Laura, so much.
All right, let's get to the first question.
Great.
Let's talk a little bit about creative as a growth lever. You lead growth marketing for a very fast, agile platform. It's a dynamic world with content and culture and consumers. What role does creative play in the Vix brand? How do you think about balancing creativity and also performance outcomes?
Sure. So creative for us is always the heartbeat of everything that we do, right? So is what stops someone scrolling in their feed, is what starts a story, if it's what drives that click. And for us, it's very important to address the audience, the behavior of that audience, that device, all at the right time, at the right place. Because all that story stitching together, perfectly aligned, is what drives better results. And when we do all those things compounded together is when we see the biggest KPIs, like for that video completion, that click-through rate, to that like true conversion, subscription, and they stay in the platform as engaged as they can be.
So you were an early adopter to Amazon Prime. What was the reason for that?
So for us, it was all about being front and center when people are watching, right? We have a very unique offering, right, at Vix. We have content that is produced and done by Latinos for Latinos. So we wanted to make sure that we're telling that story, and what a better place to be with Amazon Prime. That is when people are watching in the right place at the right time, and they can access all these stories right there.
So when you're thinking about creative and creativity, and you're thinking about building brand love, reaching people, and engaging them, but you also have to be thinking about performance outcomes. So let's go a little deeper about what's your process? How do you think about doing both of those things at the same time, full funnel?
So we think about it as a story arc. So awareness is kind of the opening act of everything we do. The action is the conversion. And then the loyalty piece is the sequel. So we are talking to everyone at the right time in the story with the same emotions, but we need to tweak it to make sure that we're connecting to that person.
And when you're connecting both heart and head, and you're thinking about the story arc, how are you thinking about doing that across screens? Because the people you're reaching, who you want to consume your content, they're on their phones, they're on their iPads, they're in front of the big screen. How do you think about doing this across all screens on any surface anywhere?
So we think about how are they behaving at that time, and we make cuts of maybe the same creative that adapts to that behavior or that screen or that device, right? So when they are watching on a living room device, we can get away by doing it longer, right? Because the people are cozy on their sofas and they can, have another connection than when they're on the go on their mobile device. So we need to make sure that even though the creative can have a similar message, it is a shorter, a static, or versus a video. So it adjusts to that moment that we want to capture that person.
Do you ever worry that the personalization that performs gets in the way of the brand look, the feel, the guidelines? Do you ever feel like you have to compromise?
Yes, that's a great question. I feel like personalization is great, but also it's not scalable. So this is why we partner up with like a platform like yours, like Smartly, that allow us to scale without sacrificing that quality, right? Because we want to do iterations, but we want to do the iterations faster, not lose the quality, but we don't have unlimited resources. So we need a template that can adjust on all these moments in time, but also that we iterated and we learn enough that we feel comfortable not losing the personalization, but still we can be agile.
I think that's a fear, that's a concern that every marketer has, is how do I balance these two so that I'm being true to the brand, but I have the agile personalization that we know people expect today. When you think about, the resources that you have, what do you tend to prioritize? Is the prioritization around consumer insight? Is the prioritization around as much working media as possible? Is the prioritization around, a lot of investment in production to make sure that the look and feel is coming across? How do you think about that?
I think it's a mix, to be honest, right? We have big temples. When we have these big temples, we need to make sure that the look and feel and the story and the overarching message is consistent. Mm-hmm. But also we have performance marketing, that is our well-oiled machine that needs to keep going, and that can get scale and volume and all the thousands of hours of content that we have. Yeah. So with that, we can get away with templatizing that a little bit more when it's a bigger temple or something that is kind of like a bigger thing at one time. We can personalize it, we can adjust it, we can have a bigger budget for that. And that's how we mix and match.
So let's double click on mixing and matching, because to mix and match well, yes, you have to have consistency. Yes. How do you assure consistency across all of the personalization, across all of the assets, across all of the screens? What are you looking for to ensure consistency of brand message and look and feel?
So we were very intentional with rounds of tests that we've done. Yeah. So this is where we use a technology platform like yours to test at scale. We tested messaging, creatives, in the different devices, copy. If we were doing a creative in the morning, in the afternoon, in the middle of the day. Mm-hmm. Once we ran a playbook, we knew what was working and what was not. That's when we started with putting things in place that we were making smaller changes. So then it's still personalized, but we didn't need to learn and kind of come up with like new ideas all the time. It's like we have the playbook that works. We make intentional tweaks, but smaller.
So Vicks is a storytelling brand. So you have to set a high bar for yourself. Do you feel that pressure of the high bar extending all the way through to your creative, no matter where it is, what screen, what type, what variant? How do you communicate that to your team so that they know what they're looking for when they're hands-on keyboarding and they're spending time making decisions about day in, day out, agile media planning and the creative planning? How do you think about that? So
definitely storytelling is a superpower of us, right? I think because of the audience and the warmness in the like Hispanic community, we need to kind of like talk to them the right way. with the emotions, with the right like tone of voice, and that doesn't need to get lost, right? But also there's like a lot of things that are happening, right? Like from the election of the new pope to the final of a soccer tournament. So we need to be very agile on those pieces. So that is where we are kind of like a newsroom meets like a growth lab. So we kind of like mix and mash those like two pieces, like to work very well together and templatize, but also be unique.
A newsroom meets a growth lab. Talk a little bit more about that, because you're in the storytelling business, but you're also in the business of business.
Yes. So that means a lot of coffee. That means that we need to be creative, but fast. So I think this is what the playbook is all about.
Can you be creative and fast without technology?
No, I think that's very hard. And I think that's one thing that for us unlock a lot of opportunities. I think that if you're missing an opportunity is to think that you're like when you're stuck. That when you think that you need really big budgets to come up with really big ideas. Like the biggest ideas come on like Slack, on Teams, on, a small meeting that we have and say, okay, let's put this message and let's try this. Let's put it with a price. Let's put it with no price. Let's like change different like keywords and like come up with like a message that makes sense. But I think that's, we just need to be agile. We cannot get away of being stuck and not delivering a creative because of not having technology.
So what do brands risk in this new age where algorithms go so fast and people are empowered to go even faster? Do brands risk not being part of culture? Do they risk not being relevant? You talked about stopping the scroll. If you don't engage in a matter of 2 or 3 seconds, people move beyond you. What do they risk? What do they have to get right? Because if they don't, then they get it all wrong.
Yeah, like I feel like you get stuck, right? Like sometimes you get stuck to be perfect and you miss the moment. At VIX, we have novellas, we have series, but we have news. We have a soccer final that we don't know till the day before. So if we are not in the business of moving fast, we cannot get that creative out at the right time. So that's why I say sometimes if you fail fast, but like just move on. But just being out there with the creative that you need at the right time, you have still chances to capture that person and get them in and tell a story. And I think that they need to remember you by all the different messages, not just one creative, right? So if you have an umbrella campaign that is telling you everything you have, but then you have one tuning campaign that is telling you one little piece of that story, then you're still consistent in the message and you're still moving forward versus like not being able to deliver.
Yeah. And when you think about delivering, you've got umbrella campaigns, you've got tune-in, you've got promotion, you've got special events. You're having to balance the short-term goals and the long-term goals. How do you do that? And what key metrics are you looking for?
Okay, so that's a lot, which is fun. I think that's for me the funnest part of like my job is like performance is like the growth. It's more the immediate, short, medium term. And then brand is the long-term goal. But you need to cater both, right? But these are all the stuff moments that lead to the brand. And then the brand is the lasting piece, is what people remember you and the reason why they choose you time and time again. So I think that's like a journey, but you need to balance for both.
So last question. You are clearly a student of the game and you love it. So what would you tell other growth marketers like yourself to do? What's the one thing you tell them to do? And what's the one thing you tell them to avoid and not be blocked by?
What I will say is stay collaborative, and leaning to technology is your best friend. I will say toss or kill rounds and rounds of creative revisions and adjustments. Is not gonna unlock any opportunities in the long term.
Mariela, this has been great. Thank you so much. You bring passion, you bring purpose, you bring focus, and some joy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.